Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast. We go on an adventure to discover a recipe just to go stop the end of the world, kind of.
Again.
Yeah. So this is Geek Addicts. I'm Bill. This is Matt. How you doing, Matt?
Doing good. How about you?
Oh, it's been a week. I'm very over it, and I'm glad it's the weekend. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, I agree there. What's new with you?
Uh, Not much. I got a few game room projects I'm working on. Um,
Nice.
it's a never-ending thing where it's always like, how can I make it better? Uh,
Sorry, I feel a sneeze coming.
no worries.
I think it went away. Um, so we finally got a release date for Dragon Ball Daima,
I saw that. It's
October 11th.
looking.
Very excited.
It's going to be interesting. This has been a weird
Uh,
week.
they,
A weird
they
week for
revealed.
surprises.
Oh yeah, they revealed a little bit more about it too. Apparently it is going to be based in the demon realm. So seems like my theory might prove to be true after all.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Knew it. Knew it was coming.
There it is.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, this was also the week that Lincoln Park got back together.
Yeah, that was weird, huh?
Yeah, it took the internet less than 24 hours to find a problem with it.
It's about right.
Yeah, so that was an interesting mood flash to watch.
Hmm.
Um, if anyone's curious, you can go look that up. It's pretty easy to find. Um,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, it's crazy. I had like no time this week to do anything, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of been like that for me for at least a few weeks now. Just with all the craziness at home, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, like I think I got home every day this week and just fell asleep because I was so freaking tired.
Yeah, I keep falling asleep putting my kid to bed.
It happens. But
Yeah, but there has been a schedule change. Cindy will apparently no longer be working on Saturdays.
that's good.
And for what I understand, Thrax availability on Saturdays is a lot better now.
Hmm.
So we might be able to start working out some more regular Star Trek episodes.
Oh yeah, no, definitely looking forward to doing some more of those. Yeah. Other than that, I really wish I had time to play games. I barely have time to watch anime anymore.
Yeah, I started and beat the Game Club game for the month in a
I
week over the
I
course of
saw
this
that
week.
you basically just murdered everybody on this one. I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like the only other two people who were playing had like only gotten like maybe a few hours in. And I was like, hey, I'm on the last dungeon.
Yeah, I saw that pop up. I was like, oh. I was like, Matt, you didn't have to murder them.
Well, I was determined this time to be the first so I could pick next month's, which I
Yeah,
already informed Aaron of my choice. So
looking forward to it. I probably won't have time to play it, but I will definitely look forward to seeing what it is.
it's a fairly short one. You'd probably be able to.
You'd be amazed how little time I have to do anything these days.
That's fair.
Uh, it's unfortunate.
But
Uh,
I'm excited for it. I feel accomplished now that
hmm,
because I've been wanting to take part in the game club the past few months and just either just not having the game or the time to play it. And it was like, oh shit, this one. I just played the remake last year and I played the shit out of it as a kid, so I could probably fly through this game. So
hmm. Yeah, there's like utter domination on that one. Oh, yeah. Other than that, nothing too crazy has been announced really. Um, yeah, it's been slow news week overall.
Still waiting on Spy Family season 3,
It's coming. It's probably going to be sometime next year.
probably. Um, I believe I don't know if you heard of the new Stephen King movie, The Life of Chuck.
Hmm.
That it isn't really like theatrically released yet, but apparently the movie is done because they had a showing of it at like a film festival,
Hmm.
and I'm hearing a lot of really good things. I like the director that worked on it, and it's going to be starring Mark Hamill and Tom Hiddleston. So seems like it's going to be a pretty good one. I like the story it was based off of. It was really interestingly written because it's kind of like obviously based on the title, it's like this guy's life, but in the book version, it tells his life in reverse, like starting with like on his deathbed and moving backwards. So it's gonna be interesting to see how that movie comes out.
I don't know why, but that just reminded me of the original Xbox commercial.
I don't even remember it.
Well, it's like kind of like the opposite, where like it's the original Xbox commercial is one of the most like what the fuck gaming ads ever. It's literally it starts with like a woman going into labor, and then she like straight up rockets the
Oh,
baby through the air, and it just ages into a senior by as it's flying through the it basically ages to an elderly man as it's flying through the air, and then it just ends with it crashing into a gravestone, and it's just like
I
original Xbox, and I'm just like,
I remember that.
what? Like one of the most like, what the fuck did I just watch?
We had some weird commercials back in the day.
Oh yeah, like I remember the PlayStation 3 commercial. Like there was like two of them. There was like this one with like this like animatronic baby that I always find horrifying, and then there's this other one that I swear to God they didn't even realize they were advertising a video game console.
Why is the commercials that feature babies doing unusual things are always creepy? Like so many people are creeped out by like the singing baby and the talking baby commercials and stuff. Like,
Because babies doing things that unnatural to them that like actually doing stuff, because let's face it, babies barely do anything besides eating shit. um
I can
uh
vouch for that.
yeah, but it's like when they do stuff that's unnatural, it's just creepy. Like it's like this isn't right.
Yeah.
I still think the most effective video game commercial ever though is the PS2 commercial where they advertise the PlayStation 6. Like they don't even mention
Right.
the PS2 at all throughout the commercial, and then it just like they show the PS6, which is just like this crystal ball. Like it's like, okay, it
All
better
right. So
look
when
like
the
that, Sony.
I was gonna say when the next generation comes out, we better see that crystal ball.
Yeah, but then like it cuts to black, and then it just shows the PS2 logo, and I'm always like, that is either the worst or greatest video game commercial ever.
All right.
Yes. Nowadays, I don't
Yeah.
even remember video game commercials because they're all so sterile.
Hmm. I read some more Rurouni Kenshin over the past week.
Nice.
I got to I think the last bit I read was the little Yahiko story with the chick he was working with.
His little girlfriend there.
Yeah, when he was saving up money to buy a reverse blade. But it actually had happened like almost like scene for scene exactly the same.
Yeah, I always I hate the fact that I love his art so much.
Yeah, I get that. It's even like more like when you're reading the manga too. It's like
Well,
those
yeah,
are like good illustrations.
they are. It's just it's like then you realize who he is, and you're like, ugh.
Yeah,
You want to hate
especially
it, but
like the little blurbs between chapters, and he's like talking about himself and his process, and like it's interesting reading like the research behind it, like how he came up with each character. But then it's just like, ugh, I don't want to listen to you.
I know, I know. It's one of those things that just kind of sucks now.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I can't help but like the story though. It's a good story.
Well, yeah, it's that's the worst part about it is the story is great. It's like, he's not.
Mhm.
But
Oh, but
let's
I
not
will say
let's
he got me interested in the revolution, like the restoration of Japan. Like I want to actually like do research into that now because it sounds
hmm,
really interesting.
yeah. But yeah, let's not dwell on him too long because we actually do have a good topic for this episode. We're going to be talking about the Spy Family movie Code White.
Yes, it's a little
So
overdue.
yeah, so for a little backstory, me and Alex had covered we had covered this movie when it first came out way back on GNC earlier this year. Matt was supposed to join us for that at the time, but scheduling conflicts ended up we weren't able to work it out at the time. We did have Nave from Gaming Together, a fellow member of the network, had joined us for that. Um, but I thought it'd be interesting. We had kind of talked about talking about it on Geek Addicts later on, but we had discussed we had decided to wait until it came out on either streaming or physical media. And I thought it'd be interesting. We look at it now retrospectively, now that it's been a good couple of months since it came out, and
Hmm.
see if it still holds up to our initial impressions, which for me and Alex were very good. I know
Yeah.
you would really liked it as well.
Yeah. Uh, I honestly feel like I might have liked it more on the second watch through.
Hmm. You know, that's a thing with Spy Family because, like, I remember when I watched Spy Family season one, part one, I really liked it. But then I
Hmm.
watched part season one, part two when that came out later on. And when I was watching that, I decided to go back and watch the whole thing from start to finish again. The second watch, it's somehow better most
Hmm.
times. I don't know why. It just kind of is. I think it's because, like, the first watch, you're kind of still trying to establish yourself with the characters. But once you actually know these characters and you kind of fall in love with them, it really makes the second watch more effective because you notice a whole bunch of stuff you didn't really pick up on the first time around.
Yeah, for sure. Because when you're watching through it the first time, you're more focused on just kind of like, what's everybody's name and like what's their deal? Where do they fit into this? But
Es-
once you kind
es-
of have an idea of the structure of the story, you can kind of start to enjoy the trees more than the forest itself.
mm, Especially like just enjoying the once you have a full like understanding of the world, because this is one of those classic. I love Spy Family because I have no fucking idea what time period this show's supposed to take place in.
Yeah, it's a little
I
left
I
up there.
I think it's supposed to be like Cold War era Germany, but like
It's definitely
the
Cold War for sure.
there's some weird aesthetic choices. Like the cars feel very old, but some of the wardrobes, like yours clothes in particular, feel very modern at times, and I'm always like, I can't tell what year this is supposed to be.
But yeah, like her like regular hanging out clothes, her work clothes definitely feel like a time period.
Yeah. But then like you see her in her workout clothes and she looks like an average person at the gym these days. And I'm just like, okay.
Hmm.
Um yeah, but also then again though, yours kind of an anomaly in this universe.
Yeah, she's probably easily the weirdly enough, she's the most unrealistic, despite the fact that we have a literal telepath and a dog that can see the future in the series.
Yeah. Well, it's always kind of like when I always see people who are like they're trying to figure out what country this is supposed to be, which I assume it's supposed to be Europe, but
Or
people are always
European in general.
yeah, and there's always like people they're like what race is your? Because like your looks like the most Japanese out of any character in this universe.
Hmm.
Which theoretically they could be immigrants for all we know. I don't really know. It's
True.
not really explained.
The
It
fact
it
that
might
she's all like, super ninja martial arts stuff,
yeah.
also makes
Also
it a
like
little more confusing.
when we have all these characters with very Western like European hair colors and stuff, and then they have the most traditional like anime like Japanese style hair colors going on.
Hmm.
But this is all fan theory. For all we know, they're also
Yeah.
European. It's just a stylistic choice.
Well, there's
Um
also the fact that like I mean they put a lot of focus on Westalis and Astania, but like there's a lot of other countries involved, so like they could be
yeah.
from anywhere.
Yeah, it's all
Like
really
locationally we know where they're from, but like as far as genealogy, they could be from anywhere.
I mean, for all we know, they could be like from like the Slovakian area, like Slovak, like
Yeah.
uh, like I
Who
always.
knows?
In reality, it's a area of Europe that doesn't actually exist, so we're supposed to just kind of not really question it, but of course we do because that's what people do.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, though, it's not important in the grand scheme of things because Spy Family is. I guess we haven't really talked Spy Family on Geek Addicts. Period. I mean, we've mentioned it, but we haven't really gone into it as a topic. Um,
I think we were saving it for when Sydney could come on.
hmm, yeah. so we probably won't go super deep, but we can probably just kind of give a bit of like the backstory for the movie purposes. It's essentially it's a spy thriller slash comedy series. Um, and it is essentially that that's kind of like the best way I describe it.
Yeah. And so, Spy has to make a fake family to accomplish his mission, his like long-term mission.
Yeah, but
And
then surprise, surprise, he's getting a little too close.
mhm,
Um,
typical.
but it's also kind of the joke, the whole like joke behind the thing is he's like the world's greatest spy and she's a master assassin, and neither of them know can see the other. Neither of them
Yeah.
can really pick up on it, despite
Except for
some
the 4-year-old telepath who knows
the
both of
four-year
their secrets but can't
and,
reveal hers.
and the dog that can see the future.
Yes. So like the kid like knows everything that's going on, but through the lens of a 4-year-old, which is just hilarious.
Yeah. And what's hilarious too is like yours. So the main characters for the series, for those who don't know, are Lloyd Forger, who is the get the joke Forger. Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Um, he he's essentially a master spy underneath the alias of Twilight. Obviously, Lloyd is not his real name. We don't know what his real name is. We probably never will find out what his real name is.
If
Um,
we do, it'll be like at the end of the series.
yeah. Um, yeah, he's the master spy, and he's currently on the mission. Um, I'm blanking on the name of the mission right now.
Uh, Operation Strix.
Strix, that's it. Which is essentially he needs to infiltrate and get close to the leader of the quote unquote the bad guys of this universe.
Hmm.
But he needs to have a child. But having a child is one thing. He also has to be convincing, so he needs a fake wife. And that's where Yor and Anya come in. Anya is kind of like this weird oddball that he just happens to acquire, essentially,
Hmm.
because she was essentially passed around from every other family because no one could deal with her, I guess.
Yeah, which is
Um,
probably why she has like this big like
abandonment issues.
that, and like she kind of like developed a sense of like, okay, like I can't tell people I'm a telepath because like that clearly fucks with people and makes them not want me around. Like I can't
Yeah.
show that openly, which is ironic because if Twilight knew, he'd probably be like, awesome, like that would help with my mission a lot. But
Or he'd just be like, Anya, stop being mentally insane and go away, or something like
mhm,
that.
yeah. Well, I mean, again, like with the whole lens of a 4-year-old thing, like she could try to convince him, but like it would probably end up coming out like nonsense, like how it happens to a lot of 4-year-olds. And
Well,
yeah,
we'll also see later in this movie that Lloyd just accepts a lot of ridiculous shit without really questioning it. So
yeah, it's funny too because it seems like he's supposed to be like this super skilled, super smart guy, but there's so many times where shit just goes right over his head. Like,
like the fact that he's married to a deadly assassin.
yeah, yeah, at the very least that.
Speaking of said deadly assassin, Yor, the other main character of this series, who is a lot of people's favorite character for a number of reasons. Some
Mhm.
more, some not as great as you'd think. Um,
Yeah,
careful going on the internet and looking up Yor. You'll see some stuff I mean, you might be into.
who knows?
But
I'm a
yeah,
bit, yeah.
Yor is essentially she is a town worker who is secretly a deadly assassin who works for an organization known as the Garden. Um, and basically, she gets hired to basically just go on different assassination gigs. But she's kind of always people are suspicious of why she's still single, and she's worried that that's going to get her outed as an assassin. Because in this universe, there's a lot of martial law going on. And you can just get arrested for not being a conformist.
Yeah, I think like, 60s America where somebody even suspects you of anything, you get blacklisted and you're either thrown in jail or you can't get a job.
Yeah. So Yor completely by happenstance runs into Lloyd at a tailor, and one thing leads to another, and essentially they end up forming a marriage alliance, which is essentially they both know it's a sham, but they're going to use it to their advantage
Mhm.
so that Lloyd can do his mission and Yor can avoid suspicion
Yes.
more than she already draws on herself just by being herself. Because I guess to describe Yor, because Yor is like my favorite character in the show because she is both the world probably one of the most deadly assassins in anime, but she's also the biggest ditz you'll ever see.
Oh yeah,
Like
extremely.
she is a genius when it comes to murdering and disemboweling people. But she's dumb as rocks when it comes to most other things in life,
Yeah,
which
because I
is
mean, she started with the assassin gig when she was like what 12, 13.
yeah,
So she
and
pretty much grew up on it.
and she's honestly kind of over it. She's just doing it because she's got nothing else to do at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Um,
it is kind of established that the organization she works for is like it's in a way like Wise, where it's to maintain overall peace no matter what country you're from. So I don't know. It's a lot of shit with that. Like you think like, oh, this guy's a spy from this other country and everything, so he's here to like work against them, but really he's there to maintain balance.
yeah, it's really weird because there's three different organizations you'll see going on. There's obviously Wise, which is the spy organization Lloyd works for. There's the Garden, which is like the assassin group, and then there is um, the Secret Police, which is where Yor's brother Yuri works, and they are essentially kind of like the government police, basically.
Mhm.
Um, which is really funny because they're aware of Twilight, but they have no fucking idea who he is.
Yeah, which
But
a lot of funny shenanigans happen with that later on.
yeah, now we won't go super deep into the series or manga as is because there is a lot of stuff that happens. We're gonna just kind of jump right into the film. So I'm gonna put up a spoiler wall here. If you have not seen Spy Family Code White and it's something you would like to watch, probably stop watching now. Come back later after you've watched it because it is now on Crunchyroll for anyone to watch. All dubs, all sorts of languages. They uploaded the languages one at a time, which was really weird, but
Yeah, that
um,
was really bizarre.
but yeah, the movie, as far as I can tell, is non-canon. But it's not. There's nothing in it that's like completely like unplausible to happen, but it doesn't happen in the manga, so it's considered non-canon. So
Well,
you
the
can watch it.
mangaka wrote the script, didn't he?
I thought that initially, but he did not. The screenplay was done by
Oh.
a different person.
That's really bizarre because like especially watching it this most recent time, like it really dawned on me how this movie is like the perfect encapsulation of everything that is Spy Family.
He
Like it
probably
has
gave
like
it.
little pieces of everything that make up what Spy Family is.
Oh yeah, this film is a great. If you're not interested, if you've never, so the way I should put this is, if you've never seen Spy Family and you're debatably curious about watching it, watch this movie because it is a great starting point. Like, and if you like the movie, you can just kind of jump into you can start the show from scratch, and it doesn't really spoil much for you.
Yeah.
Um, Granted, with where the anime is at right now, there's not a ton of plot going on so far.
Yeah. We get a little bit more coming up for that, but I mean the manga we still have a good amount of manga left to adapt at the moment, but I
Well,
mean
they have,
all told
thankfully.
there's not, a ton more to work with.
Mm,
So
yeah. So this movie, 100% standalone, um, which is nice. Was
very
released.
much opposed to last week's movie. This is when you could easily just watch the movie and not watch the show.
Yeah. And there's a ton to say about it. Um, they do give you a bit of backstory at the start to at least kind of ease your way in, so you're not just completely lost when you start this. But this movie was originally released back in December 2023, so like right at the tail end of last year in Japan, and we got it earlier this year over here. Um, and was produced by the same studio that did the second season of the anime, Wit Studio and Cloverworks, which they did a phenomenal job because this film looks gorgeous.
Hmm.
Um, looks gorgeous. They the entire Crunchyroll dub cast, because we both watched this film dubbed. The entire dub cast returns. So you got Alex Organ back as Lloyd. You got Megan Shipman as Anya, and you got um, Natalie Van Sistine. I think that's how you pronounce her name as Yor. And I love the English dub for this show.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
Like they all nail their characters so well. And yeah, so where do you want to start?
Um, I don't know, I mean, we'd start from the beginning, I guess, because it just starts out because you gotta get like a little glimpse of what each of them are doing. Lloyd's on a mission, like infiltrating like a some sort of rich people party.
This was
To
the first time we got to see Lloyd. So one of Lloyd's skills is he can steal people's identities.
Apparently in no time flat, as we'll see in this movie.
Yes, but he also can completely convincingly steal a woman's identity, and you won't even be able to tell.
Hmm.
Like when I at first I was like, where the fuck did he go? And then I picked up on, and he stole the woman's identity. I was like, oh shit, he can like steal anybody's identity.
Boy's got some range.
Yeah, he can change his body shape and make it work, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we see essentially we get introduced to Lloyd doing his traditional spy shit. Um,
Mhm.
and this shows we get also introduced to the series' very unique sense of humor, where it's a lot of like just kind of like it's like a combination of like shock humor and also just kind of like it's like stuff you would least expect, I'd say.
Mhm. Yeah, like a lot of like very like dry, casual humor too.
It's like a mix of like dry humor and just like complete nonsense humor, like stuff that like comes completely out of nowhere, and you're just like, what?
Hmm. Um,
Um,
so the basic story of like how this starts is Anya gets a school assignment where they it's like a little contest to see who can make the tastiest dessert, and whoever succeeds will get a Stella Star, which is like part of the whole mission is that she has to get 8 Stella.
yes.
It's pretty much like
Um,
getting a gold star in third grade.
hmm. Yeah, and if she gets if there's also the negative the little thunderbolts, which are if they get in trouble, and if they get a bunch of those, then they get expelled. But Lloyd, being Lloyd, essentially finds out who the actual person judging the contest will be. So he does his spy shit and finds out exactly what his favorite meal is, and he decides, okay, we have to make this very specific meal to basically bribe the judge.
And styled after this specific restaurant that's in a different place altogether.
Yeah. In other words, an excuse to go somewhere so they can animate pretty new environments for the movie.
Yes. And pretty they were.
We also get a really great because we need it's a movie, so we need to have conflict in our film because the lovey-dovey spy family has to have conflict every now and then. So
Hmm.
we get
Even
this
though
great
most of it is just your take it shit out of proportion, as we'll
it's
see.
it's your being gullible as fuck. But we get this great scene of Yor is for some reason she's on the roof with her group of employees that kind of like her but also treat her like shit.
Hmm.
Um, and they're on a roof for some reason. It's never really explained, but they're chatting about something, and everyone's like, they're essentially kind of like asking Yor once again how her marriage is going because they don't really buy the marriage thing from Yor all the time because
Hmm.
Yor is kind of a she's kind of a space case at times, and Yor is busy looking off in the distance just as she happens to see Lloyd meeting up with Nightfall for a spy related thing. And from the angle, it looks like he's giving another woman a kiss. And this immediately causes Yor to freak out. She's like, "Is that Lloyd?" And then she looks away, and he's gone all of a sudden because he went in the magical spy phone booth
Yep.
off to the corner.
Typical.
And basically, it starts the whole Yor conflict of this film, where she thinks Lloyd is cheating on her and is not in love with her, which they're not in a real marriage, but that doesn't matter right now because Yor's having her moment. Um,
Hmm.
but meanwhile, Lloyd is getting his spy. He's meeting with the head of the Wise to discuss. They need him to do another job, essentially, and because of the necessity of said job, they're going to take him off Operation Strix and replace him with another person, which essentially would mean the end of the series in
Yeah.
reality.
The end of the titular spy family.
Yes. And the guy who's replacing him comes off as like just from the picture alone, you realize this guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And
You,
he'll
you can
complete.
definitely tell it's like a nepotism kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and he'll definitely botch the entire thing.
Hmm.
So Lloyd immediately goes, "All right, how about if I can figure this shit out and get this done in a timely manner, will just let me stay on this." And um the what's Handler's name? I always forget her actual name.
I'm pretty sure it's just Handler.
I think she has a real name, or at least an alias, but it's not important here. Handler essentially goes basically because Handler likes Lloyd and will basically let him do whatever. Most of the time, she's like, "Okay, sure, I'm sure you'll
For the
figure it
most
out."
part. For the
Yeah,
most part, yeah, Lloyd and Yor have pretty chill bosses.
yeah, when they're not trying to kill them.
Hmm.
But yeah. Also, you don't see a ton of yours assassin stuff, at least directly involving the assassination group in this film.
Yeah, it's mostly focused around like the mission and the dessert quest.
Yeah. So, of
I- Is
course,
is Mary Mary a real dessert?
I believe so. I think I
It
looked
kind
that
of
up
looked
in it.
like a lemon meringue pie or something.
It looks like one of those very like over the top European dishes that you'll see every now and then.
Yeah,
Something that you
I don't
just
know. It made me curious about it. I want to try it.
yeah. It's one of those things that you just don't see over here, like
One
ever.
thing that I'm not curious about trying is peanut butter pizza because whenever they said that in this movie, I was like, what in this shit?
That's a diabolical creation that only Anya would eat.
Yep.
Um,
But apparently, it's still better than whatever Yor would have made. So
well, York, it's confirmed that York can only make one thing. So,
poison.
well, no, she can make that one family meal,
Yeah, yeah.
and then everything else she is it's either bad or deadly. So it's right up
I
there with
actually.
Mr.
Oh god.
I was gonna say yours cooking is right up there with Mystery Food X from Persona 4. So um
I actually I was talking about the movie with Xander um a couple days ago or something, and we were talking about the episode where she gets shot in the butt and she drinks the pufferfish poison. We were talking about like, oh well, apparently just being an assassin means that she automatically has resistance to poison. And then like we
well
were talking about it, we're like, wait a minute, she's been cooking poison since she was a teenager, so that's why she's used to the poison.
it's also that and I'm there's a massive fan theory that something about yours just not normal. Like
No, you don't say.
she can just get run over by a car and just keep going. Like yours is a fascinating character. That's all I'll say. Like how she's
maybe
freakishly
maybe
strong.
maybe she's related to was it Yuji Itadori?
That would be an interesting crossover.
Just
I think
just really strong for no reason.
yeah, they're kind of in different time. They're in different time periods though.
Yeah.
Well, there is a fan theory that Yor was experimented on as well, but no one really knows on that.
No, who knows?
But
Maybe that'll come up at some point. I feel like it's kind of late though for that to come up randomly because they've
yeah,
been pretty forthcoming in this series about everybody's the whole deal.
true. I mean, there's still a lot of stuff we don't know yet, but
Hmm.
We'll find out eventually. But yeah, so moving on from there, we we get the oh yeah, they go back and essentially like Lloyd basically figures out the entire plan of where the location they need to go is, and it also kind of happens to coincide with the craziness of his other mission that he had at the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah, so they're taking the train there, and Anya goes to the bathroom, and she sees Bond's vision of the future of her finding a treasure. So she goes to find the treasure, and
Yeah,
what's in it is a single chocolate bonbon.
yes, which she of course eats. Um, and my favorite part too is like this is like the most Anya shit ever. Like she completely wanders off. Well, because this is also this whole time like yours having like her mental crisis about Lloyd cheating on it. This is like the second cheating thing that's happened with them. It seems to happen frequently, but
Yeah, and there was a lot of accusations around Nightfall too.
yes, um, and
So your beats up the guys who were
oh yeah,
threatening
yeah, yeah.
Anya.
I was gonna say like because they're having their whole like Lloyd's trying to figure out like what's going on with like Yor because Yor's acting spacier than usual. And during their whole like conversation, they're like, Anya's been gone for a while, and Yor wants to get out of there at all at all because Lloyd's getting too up and personal again, and she's like, all right, I gotta go. So she goes out to go find Anya, and she happens to like show up just as the two henchmen are confronting Anya about the missing bonbon. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is literally like Yor being like, Anya, sweetie, please close your eyes. And then just
It's
proceeds to beat the ever loving fuck out of these two while Anya's
in
not
like
looking.
in like 2 seconds flat, and then when Anya looks, she's like, "Oh, these guys are really clumsy. They fell down."
Yeah. Yeah, these guys are really clumsy. I love it. I love it. I love her actress's performance too, of just how she like says these lines.
Hmm. And then just Anya, just case closed.
Yeah. Anya has some one
She
liners.
because she formed like this whole thing in her mind about how they're like these ultimate chocolate thieves that are going to destroy the economy of the country because they stole this awesome chocolate. Like,
Anya says some really fucking out there shit sometimes.
oh yeah,
Um,
and there was a lot of that kind of thing in the movie too.
mm. um yeah, so eventually though they get to their location and they get to their room, of course, and then the first thing they want to do is they want to go try out said dessert at the restaurant.
Mhm.
And they find out that the restaurant is kind of special where it's like it's a family restaurant where you have to be show up as a family to eat there.
Yeah.
Um and I love this scene because like the whole time like they order their food before the dessert and everything, and then I guess it turns out that dessert is the final one they have like in stock period. So it's like
Mhm.
perfect timing. But there's a great scene where like Anya's trying to like cut her like dinner in the corner and she can't
Uh,
cut it and she's like making these like
It's supposed to
snag.
be chicken something, right?
Yeah. I think it's like peanut chicken or something.
Mhm.
Knowing Anya, probably peanut related, but
Oh yeah, it was peanut sauce. I remember that specifically.
yeah. I just remember because she can't cut it, and then like when the owner of the restaurant comes over to give his big exposition for the plot, um, he's like, "Do we have any issues?" And Anya's like, "I have some issues."
She's like, "I have some words for the chef, please."
And Lloyd's basically like, "Shut up, enough out
I
of
do
you."
I do love that their waitress took the time to get a bowl of food for the dog. That was
Yeah,
very
because
appreciated.
they had to leave Bond outside.
I
Poor
felt
Bond.
I felt
He
felt bad for him.
he goes through the damn ringer in this film. But
Yeah, he gets hit in the head with a can.
yeah, poor guy. But as they're having them getting the exposition, this group of clearly army men, military shows up, and they essentially just use their authority to break the rules, and they basically just take everything that they want,
Mhm.
including
Yeah.
the last Mary Mary, which
which was already
Lloyd,
on their table.
yeah, and Lloyd tries to like kind of like win a wager for it, but he ends up getting beat out in the end because of a technicality.
Mhm.
And basically, they find out they won't be getting a shipment of the ingredients until after they're gone already. So they essentially they make an agreement that if they go out and get the ingredients, they'll make them one they'll make them one special for them just so that they can have it before they go.
Mhm.
It also I found interesting. This was like the first time Lloyd's really failed in the series.
Yeah, yeah, for the most part. I mean, he fails at a lot of things, just not super important things.
He fails at things that don't involve the mission, like understanding your. But granted, yours a very complicated woman, so
Yeah, like I love the scene when they're sitting at the table, and yours like, oh my god, he's wearing a turtleneck. He's wearing different clothes. It's one of the signs that he's
yeah,
cheating. And he's just pulling up the turtleneck like, I think I overprepared for the winter.
yeah. I love shit like that. Yeah, because your overthinks everything as well.
Mm,
I mean, at least she wasn't like suggestively stroking a knife at the table this time.
true.
I always found that scene funny. Um, but
Like the
after
scene
that,
was the scene when they were on the date, like in the series when like she's staring at the guillotine and
yeah,
she's all like hot and
she's like,
bothered about it.
yeah, because yours got a knife fetish, apparently. Um,
Bizarre.
that's still not as funny as her standing up in the canoe and being like, "Yor, don't you want to take a seat?" She's like, "No, I'm fine here." Standing in the boat.
That's such a good
Uh,
episode.
that's a filler chapter too, which is amazing that they actually adapted it.
And for a full episode too.
Oh yeah, it's one of the best in the series.
Hmm.
But so we get to this next scene where essentially there's they're going on a quest to find all the ingredients, and like they get to the place and we get this awesome scene of like you're being like, okay, this should take us maybe the whole day of going around, and then Lloyd like immediately finds everything in like 5 seconds.
Yeah, all but like what, 2 or 3 items.
There was a couple small things here and there, but I just love the scene of him just going from booth to booth to booth,
Yep.
and just like
Because he
completely.
just knows everything. He's just has like a superpower of just knowing everything.
Oh yeah, and then Anya sees a train and has to ride the train, which is great because let's face it, every kid in that position would see the train and want to ride the train.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then he also happens to see a stand that has lipstick for sale, and he sees Yor and he goes, "Oh, this is your color, right?" And he gives her the lipstick, and Yor immediately is like, "Giving gifts? That's a sign of cheating."
Yeah, which is automatically like kind of like over the top because earlier in the movie when they were on their way, she was blushing about something and she was like, "Oh, it's just my lipstick. My lipstick is making me itchy." So he's like, "Oh, you need different lipstick here." Like
Yeah, he's being thoughtful.
it wasn't like an out of the blue like decision to give her the gift. It was something that was previously like, "Oh, you needed new lipstick here."
Yeah, and then we
Just
get the great scene of like essentially Anya is trying to get them alone together because she doesn't want them to fight and break up.
mhm.
Because Anya over dramatically thinks of this stuff. But what happens then next is like yours like mentally just in a panic. So she goes over to a liquor stand and just gets fucking smashed.
Yep,
But like
because
she
it
drinks.
wouldn't be Spy Family without Drunk Yor.
Yeah. What's hilarious though is like she gets the strongest liquor, downs it in one thing, and it's not because she's so panicked, it's not enough to do anything to her.
Mhm.
So she needs another one. And it's the funniest thing because it's also a bit. I love the scene because it was one of those bait and switch scenes from the trailer
Mhm.
where she's so fucking like smashed now that she's basically like doing her over dramatic crying, like flailing around stuff, and it ends with her falling on top of falling on top of your and the trailer cut that scene to make it look like it was some romantic scene, but it totally wasn't, which made it funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, we also got the great Anya line of Mama and Papa are flirting again.
Aggressively flirting.
Aggressively flirting. Um, and then of course yours drunkenness wears off in like 5 seconds because yours a freak of nature.
Mhm.
Um, And the next thing is like they end up both. Anya wants to ride the Ferris wheel, but she's actually secretly plotting to get them alone again.
Hmm.
And she ends up getting. They get in line, they get in, and then Anya's like, "No, I don't want to go in. Never mind," and like basically leaves them both in it alone.
Yeah.
Um, which is funny. You get some more amusing Lloyd in your dialogue until Lloyd he basically takes it he tries to overcorrect too much and it overwhelms Yor, so she kicks him out of the Ferris wheel.
Yeah, like while
What
they're in the air, it just kicks him right out, and he still lands on his feet because
oh,
he's also inhuman.
yeah. After she kicks him in the face and like launches him.
Hmm.
Um Lloyd takes a beating from Yor on a regular basis, although he doesn't get the massive inflated chin this time.
No, he gets the cheek instead.
Yeah, the big welt on his face. Uh But then, of course, they end up getting after this. They end up getting all of the ingredients except for this like cherry whiskey, I think, or cherry
It's like
liqueur,
liqueur, yeah.
and it's like completely this one thing that they just can't find. So there's also a backstory thing where like Anya's like really bummed about not she wants to spend time with all of them, but Lloyd is immediately kind of like they're like let's look for it together, and he's like no, you guys go back to the room. I'll find it by myself.
Hmm.
Um, which kind of bums Anya out because she really wants to spend time with both of them.
Yeah.
And we get this wonderful scene because they also during this whole thing they cut back to like what's happening back in the main area where you got Yuri's trying to get on the same mission so he'll be close to Yor because Yuri likes his sister too much, and he essentially gets restrained so he won't run off when they tell him no.
Hmm.
And then Fiona Nightfall is also like doing a basically she basically like tricks her way into bringing intelligence to him even though she wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, it's like Shang had the job from somebody else.
Yeah, pretty much. And we get one of the greatest like one of my favorite jump cuts in the entire series where you got like Fiona screaming. She's like Twilight, Twilight, Twilight running dramatically and then it cuts to Lloyd running the same way and he's just going liquor, liquor, liquor. Like the entire theater just died laughing during that scene.
Yeah, I bet.
He doesn't end up finding it, but in the meantime, we do get some cute scenes of Yor and Anya are playing spy in the hotel room with Anya's toy gun.
Oh, we can't forget that Lloyd called up Frankie to see if he could
Oh
find it
yeah,
for him.
right. Poor Frankie. Um,
Right when he's chatting up some girl too.
yeah. Oh yeah, that girl comes back into play later too, ironically.
Hmm.
But yeah, so Frankie ends up getting put on a mission to try and find this cherry liqueur as well, and then bring it there express order, which he says is absolutely ridiculous, and but he does it anyways because of course he does.
Yep.
But eventually Lloyd ends up failing to find it and heads back to the room, and they kind of hang out as a family for a little bit before Lloyd gets a tip where there might be some, and he decides, all right, I'm gonna go head out and get this. Right when Anya's like, but I want to be family. Um, and it leads to a bit of a conflict where they're all arguing, and then a convenient room service person, other known as Nightfall, shows up, which sets Yor off again on her whole cheating thing.
Yeah.
But then we get so basically Anya is so disappointed that he's off leaving again that she runs away.
Well, on this that's what I thought it was at first too. But on this second watch through, I think because she read his mind and he was talking about like, oh, if we can't make this work, then I'm going to end up losing the mission and the family's going to be over. And then
Right.
she had the vision of where the liquor was, so she left to go get it because she couldn't explain how she knew.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It was because she had seen it previously and then she remembered where it was through her visions, her
Mhm.
mind reading visions. Or no, was it that or did Bond see it? And then
I
she
think
read Bond's
Bond saw it in the future.
right.
So so like she was like, "Oh, okay, so that's the store it's at." So she went and got it.
But she kind of framed the note as she was running away. Sorta.
But it was illegible.
Well, yeah, I love that that
I
line.
love whenever something like that happens. He just looks at the paper. He's just illegible.
Illegible.
I have
Well,
no idea what this says.
what's funny is apparently in the dub he basically says, I can't read this. Um, but apparently, but it well in the sub he's like it's less dramatic. It's like I can't read this or something, and then in the dub it's just straight up illegible because it is all scribbly and whatnot.
Yeah, it's super funny.
Um, yeah,
This is the point where she gets kidnapped. I do love that, like, the first half of this movie was just fun family shenanigans for the most part. You know, it would have been a little bit too much if they had tried to make it like super serious the whole way through.
yeah, and what's funny too is the serious part is still comical.
Yeah, extremely.
Honestly, the serious part is more comical in some ways.
Yeah, in some of the ways, yeah. Because
Um,
Anya gets scooped up after buying the cherry liqueur.
she does, but I love the part too because it's the two henchmen from the train once again. Um, and they're initially they see her walk by and they go like, "Is that the girl we're supposed to be looking for?" And they bring up this hilarious drawing that looks nothing like her. It's like this horrendous like bad scribbled like one of those hilarious like kind of like suspect drawings, but it looks horrendous. But
Yep.
eventually they realize it is her and they just kind of like grab her there, and then poor Bond gets like he gets like the car that they're running off in runs over a can and it nails him in the head. I was like, the
Mhm.
poor guy just gets knocked out.
Yeah. Bond has a rough time of it.
Um, so then this is eventually where Lloyd and Yor end up they're out trying to find him. We'll find both of them, and they find Bond like knocked out in the street.
Yeah, and Bond had ripped off a patch off of one of their jackets, so
Yes.
like it identified them as part of the military.
Mm. And after that, they kind of start developing this plan to go and track them down, and it involves Lloyd restoring a mothballed airplane that was out in front of the restaurant
Mhm.
single-handedly, which Yor doesn't question at all because apparently he can just fix planes now.
Yep.
Um,
He used to fly them when he was a student.
yes. Um, that it's amazing how much Yor buys this shit. But
It's kind of like similar for the both of them. Like they both just kind of let a lot of this shit go without thinking too much about it,
yeah.
which is really
Uh,
weird considering both of their professions.
but as he's taking off, Yor realizes that she's not going to just sit around the entire time. So she chases after the taking off plane and jumps into the cargo cabin on the bottom.
Hmm.
She runs on foot, by the way, because Yor's, as we've established, a freak of nature.
Yeah.
Um, and she's basically stowing away in the plane. And Lloyd at this point is in full spy mode, and he's heading for the enemy war fortress, which is like this big flying like fortress that's preparing to essentially invade.
Hmm.
And lo and behold, the guy who's leading it is the same guy from the restaurant that we saw earlier.
Hmm. Because of course.
And Lloyd ends up getting close to them. He basically makes this like whole like radio thing about, oh, we're running low on fuel. We need to make an emergency landing. Can we please land on your plane? Which they're immediately like, no, shoot him out of the sky.
Yep.
Oh, and
So
while you, oh, go on.
I was just gonna say, so he just immediately crashes the plane into the airship.
Yes. Um, yeah, and as he's as he's basically crash landing into the plane, the general is basically also like, oh yeah, by the way, launch the missiles and begin the attack. And they're like, but we haven't got the clearance to start war yet. He's like, I don't care, do it anyways. Um, and while like Lloyd is doing all this like midair maneuvering around all the gunshots, you get clips of Yor inside the cabin. She's like, Lloyd, what are you doing? Yeah, see, because she's getting like fucking flung around the fucking cargo hold.
Yeah, she's like, I thought you knew how to fly this thing.
Yeah. She's like, I like the sassy Yor that comes out every now and then. Where she's like, what the hell? Like, I didn't
Mhm.
ask for this.
So
But
meanwhile, Anya's taken to the dessert guy, and
yes.
basically they're like, "Oh, she ate the chocolate." So he asks her like, "Have you defecated yet? Have you passed any stool?" And she just goes, "You mean poop?"
Yeah. In a very innocent way. And she's like, no. And he's like, all right, you two are going to wait there until she craps it out and you're going to retrieve the microfilm. Because the reason that the chocolate was being transported is there's a little microchip film in it.
And hence begins about a 15-minute subplot of the movie where the whole thing revolves around whether or not she's gonna poop.
Yeah. I love how he's like, he basically he makes the terms that the general uses are hilarious because like at one point they come back and she still hasn't gone yet and he's like has the girl defecated yet
Hmm.
um but like there's this whole thing where like they're doing because the two guys are like kind of the two henchmen are kind of freaks and like one of them is like all into these weird like ceremonies and shit so they're doing
Yeah,
like
like
a shaman
horoscopes.
they're doing like a shaman ritual to get Anya to take a shit essentially.
Hmm.
And we get to quite possibly the most what the fuck and funniest scene in the film where it's like, I thought she was going to legit shit herself here. Like, she's like, she's got the typical, like, the most like real face in the entire movie where she's like trying to hold it in. And
Yep.
then it ends up like cutting to like her, like, all like curled up in a ball, like on the bed, like in agony. And then we go into this acid dream, like, sequence where it's like all rainbows. And this is where all the film's animation budget went.
This is where it goes
Um,
super Ghibli for a second.
yeah, and it's like all rainbows as she's like flying into this weird like toilet god. And our favorite character, the headmaster, Mr. Elegant himself, is like this weird like shit fairy flying around.
Hmm.
Um and then
Like
it basically
flying by farting.
yeah. And legit the entire theater, me and Alex were just dying because we were like, what the fuck is this movie?
Yeah, you can't not because it's just so much. It's so
Yeah.
funny.
And then like it cuts where she flies into this like toilet thing, but she doesn't actually go. It's just it's a distraction for the time being. Because then we
Yep.
cut back to Lloyd getting out of the smashed airplane, and he's essentially now like infiltrating the plane. Meanwhile, he has no idea Yor was in the cargo hatch, so she pops out on the other side because the plane it
Mhm.
was kind of like wedged into the it was like wedged into the actual like side of the ship. So he managed to get in, but Yor was still on the outside. So Yor's just like walking around. She's like, "Where the hell are we?" And then
Mhm.
we cut to the bridge, and they're like, "Sir, there is a woman walking around on the ship." He's like, "What?" He's like, "There's just a woman out there walking around."
He's like, I
Um,
don't care for jokes.
and then he looks into the periscope, and he's like, "Shit, you're right." Um, and they're just like, "Take her out," and
Super
your
random.
and yours like, "It's not very nice, sir."
Mhm.
She's like, "I'm
It's
looking
like
for my
somebody goes to like throw a grenade at her and she just throws the code at him.
yeah." And she's like, "I'm looking for my husband slash daughter. Like, has
Mhm.
anyone seen them?" And they're all just like shooting at her. She's like, "Hey, that's not nice."
Yeah.
Um, she ends up doing a hell of a lot more damage to the ship than Lloyd does. Because Lloyd is like kind of trying to sneak around, and yours just causing destruction everywhere she goes.
Oh, you know, you got to do what you're good at, you know?
Yeah, I love the fact that she looks into the smashed up front of the plane, and she's like, "Lloyd, are you there?" And then she's like, "Nah, he should be fine."
Yeah, right. And just completely just move on from that.
As she's running across the top of this flying airship, which in all reality should have flung her off with the wind, but that's besides the point. Um, so do we want to talk about Lloyd infiltrating the bridge first? Do we want to talk about your down in the cargo hold? Because
Let's
they
get the your part. Get the your part done first.
okay.
This
So
is kind of
both
isolated from like the main story.
yeah. So both of these scenes happen at the same time. We kind of alternate between the two, like it goes back and forth. This was actually Alex's one criticism of the film, which I kind of agree with, although it is a badass scene.
Mhm.
This entire scene with Yor is literally pointless to the entire thing, and it's literally there just so Yor has something to do.
Yeah, which I understand. I and it was kind of weird for them to just pull out like a super soldier out of nowhere. Like,
Yeah. It was very much like one of those things where it kind of just happens and you just kind of don't question it.
dude's got a minigun for an arm.
Yeah. Well, he's like an walking armory. Like he's got an
Yeah,
entire like fucking like robot. He's basically a robot in a
pretty
human
much.
body. Um
Pretty much.
but yeah, this essentially it's like they send that out to deal with Yor because Yor has basically destroyed the ship at this point. It's fucking on fire and flames.
Mhm.
Um and they send him out to deal with Yor. Well, they deal with the situation up front because by this point we also get a Scooby-Doo sequence where Anya runs off from the two henchmen and they go through all these like um it's the typical Scooby-Doo chase scene where they're like going through different things and they just can't catch her
Yeah,
until she finds a bathroom and she finally
yeah.
goes.
And she has like a brief little like glimmer of that big animated scene we had earlier when she sees the toilet.
Yeah, and she's just pure happiness. But of course they of course they catch her immediately because like she goes right out and they're just right there holding toilet
Hmm.
paper.
Yeah,
Um,
you think they would have been smart enough to post guards around every bathroom, but
I know, right? But eventually they then bring her back up to the bridge and they're like, well, she went, but oh yeah, also earlier in the film they had threatened to like if she wouldn't shit it out, then they were just gonna cut it out of her.
yeah, well, that was why she ran away in the first place.
Yeah. Because they just gave up on getting her to shit. Um,
Which that's pretty impatient, you know. I'm just saying.
I mean she was gonna go eventually. You can only hold that in for so long.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, so eventually they bring her up and they're like, well, she went, so we don't have it anymore. And they're like, all right, you two, go down into the sewers and find it. And basically
Yeah,
dig through the shit. Um, which
nasty.
to be fair, if you want to bring in logic here, that ship was brand new. There probably wasn't a lot going on down there.
True.
But that's not as funny. So we're not going to acknowledge that. Instead, we're going to talk about how as they're walking down to go deal with that, they happen to pass Lloyd, who has stolen another soldier's body at this point, well, appearance, and he immediately notices the ripped off patch and
Mhm.
puts two and two together and proceeds to for the second time in the film beat the fuck out of these two.
Which fair enough.
But then which also leads to a whole thing where I realized because later on in the film they evacuate the ship. Those two guys were knocked out and like out for the count. I'm pretty sure those two died
Probably.
because we never see
But
them again.
I mean, I don't know, it's debatable.
It's one of those things where you just
This is like a goofy cartoon, so
true with an entire subplot about a character taking a shit.
yep.
I love. But we get this awesome scene now where Lloyd goes onto the bridge and they kind of like I forget what leads to the conversation, but like he needs a reason to be on the bridge, so he rips off his button and just kind of flings it out on into the thing. He's like, "Oh dear, my button fell off. I have to go get it."
Yeah,
Um,
because Anya was hidden underneath like a trap door or something, and she
she's
managed to, you know, she smashed her head against a
yeah,
pole or whatever, and he heard the sound, just put two and two together.
yeah, she bashed her head in on this thing, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, Anya. Um, but by doing this, like, the guy he like picks up on the fact that it's Lloyd isn't who he's saying he is, and he just
Mhm.
shoots him, and it actually like grazes his skull, and I was like, holy shit, like,
Yeah, like it just kind of skims his disguise a little bit, so his little bit of his hair pops out.
yeah. And then it like kind of they're like he's basically like he tells all the other guys on the bridge he's like take him out, and they just this big like shooting scene goes on, and
Hmm.
ends up destroying the bridge as it's going on. But it basically what happens is they end up he ends up like filling the entire room with gas because he wants to essentially gas him, take him out. But in the process, like the windows get like smashed open, so all the gas ends up escaping.
Well,
And it
Anya inadvertently saved the day again because she
yes,
just busted out of her uh, her bindings and just kind of accidentally hit the right button.
yeah. But what's great is in the confusion with all the gas, Lloyd manages to steal the general's appearance. So there's just two of them, which we find out he can legit change appearances in a like a split second.
Yeah, like
Um,
no time flat.
and we get one of those classic like man in the mirror scenes where it's like it's essentially the Spider-Man meme where it's like it's I'm the real one. No, I'm the real one. And they go
Mm,
back and forth. And of course all the henchmen end up picking the wrong one as the real one.
typical.
Um and basically what happens is like the ship is at this point because Yor has been fucking shit up down below. The entire ship is now basically in a crash course and they basically call an abandoned ship and get everyone off.
Can we talk about how she beat the guy?
Yeah, I was gonna save that. Actually, I wanted to get into that next. So this guy is just a fucking machine, but of course, Yor is also a fucking machine in a different way.
Hmm.
And she starts off by just trying to like bash him with like an axe, but it's really not doing much. But then
Yeah,
she pulls out that convenient lipstick. Um, and she's like, lipstick is flammable because it's made with oil.
yeah. She's like
Which,
the main ingredient of this lipstick is oil, and like she like surrounded him, like drew it all over the floor around him in a circle, and then like drew it on him. And
yeah,
it's like that's really like that's like very unsafely flammable lipstick.
oh
Like
yeah,
like if yours smoked, she'd die. Like,
probably. But actually knowing Yor, she'd just be impervious to it. But that's besides the point.
hmm.
Um, yeah, and then she like he's in this pattern. He's all confused. He's like, "What the hell is this?" And then she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's very flammable." And then just lights it on fire, and then we get a big boom, and he's down for
Yeah.
the count. I also
Oh, and
want to.
I did want to point out the Lloyd's little fight that he had with the commander. I really like the stylized like art style they went with for that, where it reminded me a lot of like the first opening of the TV show,
Oh yeah,
the first opening sequence where it's like one of them was like colored green and the other one was orange, and there's the way that the colors with the background and everything contrasted with each other just looked very like cool and stylized.
yeah. That was much more stylized than the Yor fight because the Yor fight, I swear to God, the like animators were like getting off to it because I was
Yeah.
rewatching that and I was like, holy fuck, they zoom in on Yor's ass so many fucking times in this fight.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, holy fuck, like they weren't even trying to hide it.
Well, I feel like when it comes to anime movies for pre-existing franchises, they just have to do that. I mean, look at
I mean, that
superhero with Bulma's butt. Like,
true. I mean, that wasn't fan service. That was more of a gag. Like this was clearly. This is the most. That was like the most fan servicey the film really gets.
hmm,
Which shows you how unfan servicey like Spy Family is. It's a very wholesome show, but
yeah,
like they sneak it in there in the weirdest places. But yeah, so that happens. But then we of course cut back to the ship is now crashing. Anya's been rescued, and Lloyd's like, "Okay, we got to get you out of here." And then Yor appears, and Lloyd's response is literally, "Yor, how are you here?"
yeah,
And she's like, she just goes, "Oh, I really wanted to be part of the family, so I snuck into the cargo as you were taking off." And Lloyd just kind of doesn't even question this. He's like, "Oh, sure,
okay,
okay, why not? I'm glad you're not dead."
yeah, right,
Um, so then we get my other favorite scene where like they're like, "Okay, we gotta get this. We can't let this crash into the city in Harmony Base. We gotta somehow make an emergency landing." And Lloyd's immediately pushing all these buttons, and yours questioning. She's like, you know how to fly one of these things? He's like, oh yeah, I took a semester of it in college. And the face Anya makes here is my favorite because yours like, oh, that makes total sense. Is like all smiling and happy, and Anya's got this face like you are full of shit, sir.
yep.
which is just great.
There's so many good Anya faces in this movie.
Well, because we get another one coming up where they're trying to like land the ship, and Lloyd is like trying to turn the steering wheel, but it's like super hard over. So then like Anya Anya like jumps on to help, and then Yor shows up with her freakish strength and just fucking spins the thing, and we get Anya flying around in circles with some of the greatest Anya faces that we'll see in this show.
Yeah, it was
And
definitely very great.
eventually the ship crash lands into they managed to avoid the city, and they crash landed into a lake. And
Mhm.
we get this great scene where like the family all is like they're like the calm before the storm, where they're kind of like they land and they're like, is it over? And then they just get doused in water. And I was like, that was great. Just like the faces they all make. They're like, what?
Yeah.
But then we get like the funniest reveal where like they're all just sitting there after this what would normally be a traumatic event for normal people, where Anya's just kind of like sitting, and Lloyd kind of looks over at it and goes, "What's that in your teeth?" And then he just pulls out the microchip that was stuck in her teeth the entire film.
Yep. Which didn't even get swallowed.
Nope. So the entire shit arc was entirely pointless, but great at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, and then like the whole time they're going back, and then we don't really get a resolution with the restaurant, but it's implied that they, of course, went back. Oh yeah, because she also gives Lloyd the cherry liqueur as her reasoning for why she ran off,
Mhm.
and Lloyd kind of usually Lloyd would be more like questioning on this, but he kind of just lets it go
Yeah,
because he's happy that she's not dead.
pretty much.
This was the most caring Lloyd we've seen so far, I will say.
To a degree. I mean, he's definitely had his moments.
He's had his moments, but like I think overall he was very more caring than usual, because a lot of the times he just holds Anya by the scruff of her neck like a cat, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I really did enjoy this one. And then we of course get the great conclusion, because you got to remember this film can't affect the canon of the story at all. So of course Anya goes into the class to present the thing, and of course one of the stoves blows up and they end up canceling the entire event.
Then it's like, oh, so the principal isn't going to be judging it now because we had to reschedule. Now it's going to be the vice principal, and his favorite dessert comes from this place. So it's like, it kind of ends with like a here we go again
Yeah, it's
kind of
like
thing.
I did like the fact because they were like, all right, and then I guess we got to go on another vacation now, and it just shows kind of a few scenes of them all just hanging out as a family and not having any trouble show up.
Mm-hmm.
But
Bond
also,
has Bond has a vision of all of them having a a great time,
yeah,
which is nice.
which is great. But we also get the wonderful scene too of like when Lloyd delivers the um the microfilm to a handler. We get this great scene where she's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the guy that was going to replace you, he got outed as being unfaithful to his wife," and it shows an image of him that was caught. And the girl
Mhm.
that he was sneaking around with was the girl that Frankie was talking to earlier, and I was like, "Oh, like that's an
I
interesting
didn't even
callback."
catch on to that.
I noticed it. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like right
Huh.
there, which makes me wonder who took the photo.
It also
They
makes me
just
wonder, like, what was she? Was he the friend that she was gonna bring to Frankie? Like, I don't
yeah,
know. I'm curious
yeah.
what that was gonna be about.
Well, it actually makes me wonder if Frankie took that photo,
Maybe. Well,
because
no, because we find out at the end that
well,
he
we'll,
had
we'll
gone out to get the cherry liqueur.
we'll get to that. But yeah, so it's like it kind of it cuts off there where basically it's like, oh yeah, so now by the way, everything's back to normal. This film can exist but not affect the canon at all. Um
Mhm.
Also we only get to see like the kid, the Anya's classmates, like in like two scenes in this entire movie.
Which is a little bit of a bummer because I like all the school stuff, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I like Damien, I like Damien's two little henchmen, I like Becky. We don't get to see a ton of them in this film.
I like that one kid who just looks like he's 27.
Oh yeah, the huge one.
Yeah.
Um, but then yeah, the stinger. So the credits roll here, and Marvel has just fucking indoctrinated all of us into like believe into the whole like every film has to have a post credit scene now. Like
Mhm.
Because I remember, because Alex was getting ready to go. I'm like, no, wait. She's like, there's not going to be a post credit scene. I'm like, yes, just wait. Like, if there isn't, I'll buy dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so we're
I think I
sitting
did the
through.
same thing.
Yeah, so we're sitting through, and the credits were long. Like, I was surprised just how long the credits were. But
And I like the songs that were in there too.
no, there was some good songs. The band that did like a lot of the music was a band called No Name. They actually did they're the same studio that did the music for Dorohedoro.
Okay.
They did all the Dorohedoro like openings and outros. But
Gotcha.
yeah, so we get through the credits. The credits were fun too. They had some nice like artwork and stuff going on. But then we get the best stinger where Frankie went out of his way to go to the place and they're already gone and nobody called him.
Mhm. Yep.
And I was like, poor Frankie.
Hope we got extra pay for that.
I doubt it. It's not
Um,
important because it will never be acknowledged again.
so Lloyd's always lining his pockets anyway.
Yeah. Yep. I still want to know the alternate universe where Frankie was the wife.
Yeah, right.
Anya, I don't want this, mommy.
And I'm just saying, like, if he could disguise himself as a woman and make disguises like within seconds, like he could have done one for Frankie.
I know. I love that scene. Anya has some of the best one-liners in the entire series. Like, I still think my favorite is like, "This is Mama. She's really good at assassin stuff, but she's bad at most things."
Mhm.
Or,
Yeah,
"This is Mama. She's whatever."
yeah. Anya's the heart and soul of this series.
Well, I do love well, I think Anya and Yor to a degree are the heart and soul because Yor has so much like art as
Mhm.
well. Like, I love her. Like, I love how like some of her moments. Like, one of my favorites early on is like when she thinks Anya forgot her gym uniform and breaks into the school. Spider-Man crawls up the building and all the students are like, it's the creepy spider lady.
Mhm.
Um, and then finds out it was a day where Anya didn't need her gym uniform and that's why she didn't bring it. And then Yor just is in defeat the entire time.
Yep.
Or when
Yeah.
she murders the tennis ball and she's so sad. She's like, I'm so sorry, Mr. Ball. Just
Yeah,
goofy
a lot
shit
of
like
great
that.
stuff.
There's
A lot of
stuff
great
coming up.
stuff.
There is a couple arcs in the manga coming up where I can't wait because I want to see the Yor shenanigans.
Hmm. Well, there's gonna be a lot of stuff coming up that Yor isn't involved in at all,
Yeah,
which is
she
weird.
took a good like couple month hiatus there for a while.
Because honestly, there's a couple of arcs where she's not really featured very much. Although she
Yeah,
is gonna have some stuff in the next season.
thank God. We really do need all three of them for it to work.
Yeah. Well, it was at a point too when I was reading the manga and I was like getting like certain, different people's backstories and stuff. And there was a point where I was just like, all right, like let's get. I want to see some kindergarten shenanigans. Like, what's going on here? Like
I want
yeah,
to see
backstory is cool, but this is going on too long.
I want to see Yor misunderstand something and then get into some wacky shenanigans.
Yes, like
Uh,
all the crazy family shenanigans.
yeah. That being said, though, I love this film. Like, I think it's one of the best, like, not a standalone film, but like the best like adaptation of like an ongoing series films.
Yeah, and it really is like a perfect like summation of what the series is. Like any newbie can watch it, walk in and watch this movie and say, you know what, this looks really cool. I want to see more about this.
Mm. Yeah, because like even just like in general, like some of the like some of the scenes with how should I phrase that? Oh yeah, the anime itself is very funny. This
Mhm.
film is incredibly funny.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, even the serious moments are funny. Like, honestly, the serious moments are some of the funniest scenes in this film.
Yeah, Anya's got this looming threat of having her insides cut out,
Yeah,
but we have this like really weird, trippy sequence of her meeting with a poop god and
and
flying through the air with the power of farts.
I also enjoy the fact that the whole reason Anya isn't using the bathroom is because she doesn't want to be because she knows she'll just be killed directly after, but also
Mm,
she also knows too that this will start a war and it will also
mhm.
lead to the family being split up. which is I think her biggest concern in all honesties.
Yeah. I love how she just keep making like little excuses like, oh, I'm just doing a silly dance that I learned in school. I don't have to poop at all.
Yeah, but I love too
Or
how like
like,
she
oh, go on.
it's like the typical child thing where it's like they don't have to go at all, and then the second you bring it up, immediately have to go.
Yeah. And I love how
Where-
like when the main boss guy was um like, oh, have you gone since you ate it? And she's like, oh, I'm a delicate little flower and I don't do that. Only gross boys do that.
yeah, meanwhile Anya is like the most unfeminine girl.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
pretty great.
yeah, that was great. I did love the scene with Yor and Anya playing spy in the house.
Yeah.
Well, in the hotel room. That was cute.
The
Um,
one little scene of Yuri we got where he tried to run to her rescue and is
yeah.
immediately taken down by his coworkers.
Also, we got Yuri's locker is still the most fucking disturbing thing ever.
Yuri is just disturbing in general.
For those who don't know, Yuri's locker, we get a brief scene of it. Like you know, the typical like guys have their locker and they open the door, and then it's like pictures of their significant other. Usually, in Yuri's case, it's all pictures of Yor, and it's kind of gross. But
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
that's Yuri's shtick at this point, and it's mostly played for laughs. But holy fuck, dude!
Well, it's because we need to have characters that are super obsessed with each of them. You know, with Lloyd we have Nightfall, and with Yor we have Yuri.
Yeah, that's why the fandom ships those two for whatever reason, even though there's like no signs of that at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, any fandom is going to ship any character with any character, no matter what. So
I still think it's
it's the
funny
thing.
at I still think it's hilarious that of all of the like recent anime like romances I've seen recently, like the one that's technically fake is like one of the best developed.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Well, that's the beauty of Spy Family is all three of the main characters are insanely likable for entirely different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just
And they
want to
just
know.
work so well together.
Oh yeah, like you just want to know more about these characters,
Hmm.
which we have gotten quite a bit. But this movie just entirely is like just a perfect encapsulation.
Yeah, for sure. So highly
Um,
recommend to anybody who hasn't seen it.
oh yeah, definitely. And if you have Crunchyroll, it is fully available there now to watch. I'm sure the physical will be out shortly. Um, Looking forward
Yeah,
to that
you.
because I'd like.
Yeah, I was just to say usually it's not too far behind the streaming.
Hmm, yeah. Um, yeah. Other than that, not too much to add. Great film, highly recommend, and I can't wait for season 3.
Agreed.
I wonder if they'll do another movie at some point.
I'm sure it. I feel like it's become too big a thing not to. I mean, who knows? Maybe at some point we'll get one that's actually considered canon. Maybe we'll get
Maybe.
one. Maybe they'll just adapt an arc of the manga in that way, or the author will just write the script and say this is part of the story. Who knows?
Maybe it depends on the arc, because unfortunately, Spy Family's biggest like issue right now is the fact that the manga is so close to where the anime is at times that like it's very hard for them to take like big chunks of it out because they need all that material.
Mm-hmm. And
Spy Fam,
he doesn't catch up very quickly either with the manga because we only get like a chapter every couple weeks, and sometimes to buy himself more time, it'll just be like a short 3-page like mini chapter.
hmm,
Which I mean, to be fair, is how we got the "you're getting shot in the butt" thing. But
mhm,
it is a little frustrating when you're reading week to week and you waited 2 weeks for a chapter and all you got was 3 pages.
yeah. See, that's the thing. I love Endo's art. Like the way he draws, it's a very unique style, and I just like it. But he is very slow,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. Like I'd rather him put the effort in than rush it.
Quality over quantity for sure.
Oh yeah, and I don't see the story going anywhere anytime soon. I think there's still so much to ask and so much to find out.
Yeah, at
Um,
the pace it's going, it definitely has potential to go for a while. Although there has been progress in the manga, but
Yeah, I do
it
say
is still
though,
slow.
there is a lot of theory potential in this show because I'm curious on a lot of things, but I don't want to go too far into that for people who haven't seen the show yet.
Mhm.
And we could probably go on for another hour if we actually wanted to break down the show itself.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably a good place to cut off for now. So,
Mhm.
anyways, guys, once again, thank you for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And be sure to check us out over on the Superpod Network. That's superpodnetwork.com. It is an awesome site featuring a whole bunch of different podcasts, videos, blogs, featuring a ton of great creators like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Bar Silence, Remember 64, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, Find Time, Gaming Together, The Elder Trolls, Friday Night Gamecast, the GNC shows. I think I got everyone this time. Yeah. Sorry if I forgot anybody, but yeah, check us out over there and be sure to check out all our next, the rest of our. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm kind of a mess today. um, but yeah. Anyways, guys, once again, we will see you all later.
Have a good one.